Hello, morning everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining the webinar this morning. Today we're going to be talking about the source to pay platform, Ivalua, and how it's been used and can be used to help streamline some processes in procurement, supply chain, and construction, and some similar sectors too. You see on the screen there two logos. Just on the right hand side, we've got Ivalua. Ivalua are the authors of the software. So they write and develop the system, regarded by analysts, Gartner, and everyone like that as a leader in the sector. On the left, that's TSM. So that's us. We're the ones who implement the system, support the system, essentially taking good software products and implement them properly. So they're adopted and our clients get good value out of it. Yeah, very briefly on TSM, because I think we're just going to get into this quite quickly today. For those who don't know us, we're part of the larger Touchstone group. So it's been around since 1982, owned and run by the Birch family for all that time. Median leadership of the senior leadership team is over 20 years. The reason I say this, there've been a lot of software companies that come and go in about 5 minutes in the last few years, where you get a new account manager and support person every week. We've got a good track record of doing things properly. So many clients that have been with us for the duration for 40 years, many over 20 years. And as our business has evolved, we've identified new market-leading technologies. They've come on that journey with us. So taking on new systems with us, continue to partner with us because we've got a good, stable track record. So this is, you will have seen on the right-hand side of the last screen, TSM. So our business unit itself, we've delivered a lot of projects over a number of years. 29 employees now, so that's up considerably. That's actually almost treble what it was 4 years ago. A large part of that is to do with the partnership that we have with Ivalua, and we've seen a lot of increased requirements from procurement functions. Bottom right, you'll see we've been nominated for two pretty big awards this year. So World Procurement Leaders and SIPS Awards for both for Best Consultancy Project. And two of those nominations were for the project we delivered at ISG, who are a major fit out and construction company based in the UK, but they are actually global. So that's why we're doing this webinar. We think there's a gap in the market, and we're trying to talk to as many procurement leaders in construction as we can to see if this might be a solution that can fill that. So these are the challenges that ISG had, but I've been talking to a lot of construction companies over the last 6 months, maybe a little bit longer, and they're definitely not alone in this. So I'll just start off going across the screen. So firstly, thousands of supply chain partners. So we're talking big numbers here. They're business critical. The problem is big enough to need software. You can't just keep chucking more and more people at this forever. Secondly, so ISG had this, and I know a lot of companies have this, fragmented ESG and risk mitigation process. So a lot of Excel, a lot of alerts from different data providers, but no summarized view where people can act on something before it becomes an issue on site or in the office. A lot of the risk mitigation that people are doing is reactive. So it's not proactive. They're looking at what's going on in the market. They're not looking at what was going on in social media, news feeds. All those bits and pieces aren't feeding into them before they place an order, and they find out there's a problem after the order's been placed. Next, high percentage of SME suppliers. So even trying to get people through an onboarding journey, getting them involved in the system can be a challenge, and it's about bringing them on that journey, actually helping them, giving them some education and the training to utilize systems, not just from a client point of view, but there's a transparency on their side as well. Next, people have still got impossible client requirements. So you'll find this. Clients want local companies that are diverse and ESG conscious. Unfortunately, if there's a job that's in a remote location, wherever it may be, it's very difficult to find those companies kind of within 30 miles of a job. So you need to open up your supply registration process to more people, and then you're able to search and bring them into a pre-qualification journey. It's going to be relevant for the client and helpful for the client. And then finally, often there's no PQQ process for material or service providers. So not pre-qualifying anyone, just adding them to a database. And you're not able to streamline any buying opportunities. So you're opening up orders with people that might have poor risk or performance reviews. So you open up yourselves to the risk or poor performance on the job. So what did ISG do, and why Ivalua over some of the more traditional tools that you might see in construction? Well, it's the bit ringed in yellow at the bottom. So they're really looking for a nice looking, easy to use platform for all suppliers and spend. So one view for all supply chain partners and internal users to interact on tenders, review contracts, orders, invoices and KPIs. So without having to resort to offline processes or a spider diagram of integrations to make things tick. So those are the challenges. I'm going to hand over to Zishan now, and he can talk about this in a bit more detail.
Zishan, you're on mute.
Can you hear me now? Sorry.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Cheers. I don't know why my headset didn't work. So yeah, hi everyone. I'm Zishan Butt, SMT team leader at TSM, Ivalua's team leader, as well as certified solution architect from Ivalua. So I'm just going to carry on from where Charlie left. As you mentioned, we've implemented this for ISG, which is one of the biggest construction company in the UK. On this diagram, if you look at it on the left-hand side, we've basically connected Ivalua, source-to-pay solution, which you see in the middle, with different third-party tools, because the industry requires those integration in order to actually be compliant with the common standard process assessment standard, basically. So if you look at it on the left for legal, we connected through ConstructionLine, which, like I said, for common assessment standard, to be legally compliant, you have to connect to that and basically get the status from there when you're onboarding a supplier, when you're going through a PQQ process. We also connected to Dun & Bradstreet for when it comes to the financial risk of the supplier. So we connected to that so that it can be picked up when the supplier is going through a PQQ process, and the buyers can make an informed decision what the risk is when it comes to the financial risk. We also connected to IntegrityNext, which is one of the sustainability platforms, which we can connect to any sustainability platform, i.e. there are others out there like EcoVadis, but IntegrityNext was one of the ones that ISG connected. And we can actually look at it from a sustainability compliance point of view. We also leveraged the suppliers to connect to our platform, meaning that for certain suppliers where there was a high volume of orders, we connected using a punch chart. So basically, we connected to Bryson, one of the suppliers that they use for a high volume of their orders, and they were able to actually connect to them using punch chart. We also connected to the finance system, which is eVision, but Ivalua is ERP agnostic, so it can connect to any ERP. In the past, we've connected to many other ERPs, NetSuite, Oracle, SAP, Sun. There's few others that we connected. But we also then connected to the single sign-on method. Ivalua can connect to any single sign-on method provided it uses SAML 2.0. So it could be Active Directory, it could be Google, Okta, In this case, we connected to Okta for them. If you look at it in the middle, Charlie's went through this diagram with you already, but what it meant was having one system meant was that there was one data alignment, meaning that everything actually trickled down into one database. Even the data that we are getting from third party come into one system, and the beauty about one system is that then the buyers can actually see that information on one single supplier record, so they can see the risk against that supply in terms of what their status is with ConstructionLine, what is their sustainability score, and all of that information you can see it in one system. And having those integration will allow the company to actually mitigate risk because they have up-to-date risk information coming through from, let's say, these third-party tools that we looked at. In terms of performance, the key KPIs can be actually looked at very quickly against the supply, whether these are key performance indicators or it could be connecting through third party to actually look at how good they're doing. Also, the platform serves as a key gateway to purchase ordering. So the suppliers can use the platform to actually look at the orders that you've raised against them. You can monitor their delivery easily through the system as well. And we also can build workflows behind any of the objects in Ivalua. So, for example, a PQQ process might have a workflow behind it, which we can tailor for the construction industry, which you'll look at it in a minute when I go through that with you. Now, in terms of tangible benefits, how did they help our customer in terms of those benefits? First of all, having a digitalized P2P process meant that the payment was being done on time. Historically, they weren't able to actually pay the suppliers on time, and because having a three-way matching process in the P2P, invoice comes in, matches with the purchase order and the receipt, they were fully compliant. So if I give you some numbers, ISG in the construction industry, all of their spend, 94% of their spend is now PO compliant. So you can see most of their spend is going through PO now because it's so easy to do. And also because of that, 89% of the invoices are touchless, meaning that it just matches, most of it matches with the purchase order they were sent, and they just go touchless in the system. They were also able to actually monitor the vendor accreditation using obviously the third-party integration as well as key documentation you can hold within the system, which the system can alert suppliers to provide those documentation. So they were able to do all of that. They were also able to actually have a advanced vendor search option in the system, meaning that not only they can actually search within Ivalua on the approved vendor list, they could also search through third parties. So, for example, they were able to actually search through DNB through Ivalua into before they actually onboard a supplier. They can actually see the information within DNB. They can search in DNB, and then they can actually create that supply in Ivalua automatically through that. So it was more not just Ivalua, but external systems you can actually do the search in to actually do the discovery of suppliers. And last but not least is proactive financial and compliance monitoring. Having these integrations, Ivalua can be informed when there is a risk identified through third party or within the system. If there's a key, let's say documentation missing, the system will alert you that there's a key accreditation missing, and they need to actually be in high risk now because they don't have that key documentation. Or it could be an alert coming from DNB or through IntegrityNext telling you that a status of the supplier has actually changed. So these were the tangible benefits they got out of it. So next, I wanted to actually show you what we did in terms of the actual PQQ process. So when in construction industry, you go through that process, it's effectively a questionnaire that we built for them. It's called an identity questionnaire, which kind of basically is like a precursor to other questions that you're going to ask them. So if you look at on here, it had different sections like company information, tell me about yourself, what in terms of social responsibility, questionnaire, environmental, and so on. And then at the end, it was reviewed by someone at ISGN. And then what it did was this question is automatically triggered and sent to them. But what it also does is it then, once this questionnaire has been filled in, it can trigger other questionnaire at the same time. So, for example, you may want to actually get information about the BIM, health and safety, finance and insurance, corporate and professional compliance. All of these questionnaires can actually be triggered at the same time as well. And once the supplier has provided that as part of the PQQ, then we can have an overall status for that supplier and make a decision whether to actually onboard them or not. So how does it translate into a risk scorecard, we call it in Ivalua? You can see that against the supplier, once you've got all that PQQ information and third-party information, from third-party sources, including CIS, which is a construction industry scheme that we need to actually check, which we do as part of the onboarding process, that are they in, outside or inside the CIS scheme or not. But if you look at in terms of the risk, you can see these are the different categories we monitor for construction industry, for example, health and safety, financial. But if you look at health and safety, you can see it's actually coming, the score is actually coming from IntegrityNext, IN being IntegrityNext. So meaning the health and safety score is green, which is coming from IntegrityNext. DNB score is green, that is coming directly from DNB for financial. When it comes to compliance and legal. So what we also had in the PQQ process was a TNC process, terms and conditions. So the suppliers were meant to actually accept the buy terms and condition, ISG terms and conditions, and if they had accepted the terms and condition, you would be treated as a green in terms of the risk. Okay, but if they actually did not agree to your terms and condition, for example, and they had to change the terms and condition to accept it, that might be an amber status because they actually had to get that changed. And it could be red because they did not accept the T's and C's maybe at the end, and that's why you probably don't go with them. If you look at sustainability, again, all of these categories are coming directly from IntegrityNext. When it comes to quality, is also coming from IntegrityNext. Supply chain is the overall PQQ status. So that's the questionnaire that we sent out to them. If they pass the scoring on the identity questionnaire, for example, they get that green score. You can see that they failed on the financial questionnaire on the PQQ, and that's why they're red, and that's why the overall status is red. Now, one thing you don't see here is the weightage. You can also define the weightage within the system to say, okay, financial risk is more weighted than maybe, I don't know, health and safety or vice versa. And then it comes up with an overall score the system can actually. And how does it help you is when you're running those tendering event, RFP as well, you know which suppliers to actually engage with because you know what their risk status is, you know what their ESG status is, you know what their performance status is maybe. Now, in terms of how we did this for ISG, in terms of the workflow, what we have in the construction industry is that we have a registration process for vendors as well as subcontractor or subbies they call it, as well as an onboarding process. A registration process in Ivalua is where somebody wants to become a supplier. You're not ready to actually engage with them, but you don't want to stop them from actually starting that process. So what ISG had was they had a published link on their website where any suppliers, depending on what region they are, they go to their website. There's a link there. They can start the online registration process. They fill it in. We check it against the company's house, the information they provide. So to make sure that what they're saying they are what they are. And also we will check against the DNB number they provide. If they provide DNB number, you can see these are automatic check on the registration process. And only when they pass these two checks, the duplication check as well as the company's house check, only then they are actually registered in our system in Ivalua. Now, that doesn't mean that you're ready to engage with them. They'll just go into a holding area. And because of Ivalua, it used to take them to onboard a supplier. It used to take them at least 3 months to onboard a supplier. They've now cut down to 10 or less days, basically now. So what they do is they only engage with the supplier who are in the registration stage when they start engaging with them, let's say 10 days before. So you can see when they need to actually engage with them 10 days before the purchase, they will start onboarding that because they know within 10 days or less, they can easily onboard that supply. They can go through the PQQ, full PQQ process. So they will start the onboarding process. They'll go through the terms and condition, get it to agree with the supply. If they can't, they change it. All of that process is there. And if you look at on here, there were at least 70 steps that we had to create. I mean, this is just a very simple workflow I'm showing you, but there was 70 plus steps, which covered all the T's and C process. We also then checked the ConstructionLine to check for the status there. We also checked with IntegrityNext, which is an auto tech. We checked bank details with CreditSafe as well. So all the bank details are checked as well with the CreditSafe, and also all the questionnaire responses, the identity, financial, all of those questionnaires. Once they are all good and we are in the green, the supplier is then sent to ERP system. And as well as before we actually send to ERP system, we also check the CIS status as well, and all of the information is handy for the buyers to actually do all those checks, and then onboard the supplier. In terms of smart purchasing, like I said, we connected them to Bryson, which is one of the key suppliers from where they actually buy for their sites. ISG were able to actually then buy directly from them as opposed to maintaining their catalog in the system. When they started off with the system, initially phase 1, they were actually getting Bryson to put in the catalog through the portal. But obviously what it meant was it wasn't actually live. The prices kept changing. So we basically set up an interface with Bryson, so they could just punch out from Ivalua, go to their website, buy whatever they need to buy. This is how they do it normally. And then we will take the purchase requisition back from into Ivalua, get the authorization done, and then send the purchase order automatically to them, and the invoice can come automatically back into Ivalua. So all of that was automated. But if it was not a punch out, you can see the users are fully informed. They are actually guided to actually buy the better item. So for example, if you look at the tags on the top, they know this item is a recyclable item, meaning that it's more sustainable. So we should be buying those sort of items. Okay. So the users are informed that yes, we have a catalog from different suppliers where you can actually buy, but make that informed decision based on the different tags you have. So by default, Ivalua suggests them the most preferred items to actually buy within the system. So that's more of a smart buying scenario. Now, P2P process is all good for suppliers, but construction industry have also got a Sub-to-P process, meaning where they actually onboard a subcontractor, which is basically Ivalua can be adopted to actually do that. So you could have a subcontractor similar to a supplier set up in the system, go through that as a PQQ process. I forgot to mention, but you can also do the same process as requalification as well. Ivalua will trigger alerts based on the last qualification done and the period that you can define. So let's say some strategic supplier might need more requalification quite often than the others. You can define that in the system, and then the system can actually trigger alerts for you to do the requalification. Even the system can send you questionnaires, the requalification questionnaire automatically for you as well. But in terms of subcontractor, when the subcontractor is approved in Ivalua, it can then be used in the RFX and sourcing event because they're shortlisted, so to speak. Once they're shortlisted, they can be engaged on the tendering event. And once that tendering event has been finalized, you can have a contract or a subcontract, we call it in construction industry, in place. So you have your contract signed and everything. If there are any variation to be done or amendment, you can do that on the contract. And then what this allows you to do is allows you to actually proceed, permission to proceed basically, in order to actually create spend against that subcontract. And Ivalua can then, you can use Ivalua to then create orders against that subcontractor you have within the system. Obviously, when you have a subcontract, you have key dates and everything. All those alerts are going out to the to your internal stakeholders to actually manage the subcontract as well. But once you have a purchase order or a subcontract order, we call it, is sent to the supplier, okay? And the subcontractor then basically, once they're ready, once they provided the job, they will then apply for a payment application process, they call it. So Ivalua can be adopted to actually raise that. So subcontractors can actually raise that through the portal. They can send you a payment application, which then comes in to the buyers to actually do the valuation. And once the valuation process has been done, then they might issue a pay less notice or a payment notice. And then off the back of that, there is a payment certificate created, and that payment certificate basically serves as a self-billing sort of invoice, and that goes into Ivalua, into your finance system to be paid. So we cover all that sub-to-pay process, including levy, retention, all of those industry level fields. We can create them in Ivalua to adopt to that process. That's it. Sorry, I forgot to mention you can ask any questions, but if you have asked any questions on the chat, or if you want to ask them now, we have 3 minutes. We can answer any of your questions at this stage.